The iPad Pro is no longer a gimmick device. It's a serious piece of equipment that can be used for consumer and professional use cases. Yes, it costs more than a good laptop, but it's also not meant to replace a laptop. I was recently gifted a pre-M1 iPad Pro, and today I want to be talking about why this thing is so good in 2022. I want to clarify which version I'll be using with my peripheral choices just so that you have some context going into this review. It's a third generation, although Apple does call it a second generation because it doesn't seem to count the first gen with the big bezels. Anyway, it's got 2 cameras on the back and it's not the M1 model, that's as much as I know. This is apparently the 2020 model with the A12Z Bionic, 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. This is also the Wi-Fi only silver SKU. As for peripherals, I'm currently using a paper-like screen protector, as I heard that they are really cool for using the Apple Pencil with. It gives you sort of a different texture to the screen. And yes, I have applied this horribly. Yes, there are a couple of small hairs under the screen. I'm not very good at applying screen protectors. Anyway, I've also been using the Apple Pencil 2, the one that charges magnetically, and the keyboard case that I've been using is the Logitech Slim Folio case in grey. This is a relatively cheap option, as you'll see a lot of the Apple cases, and specifically the keyboard ones, cost an absolute fortune. Even some of the higher ones from Logitech cost a lot, and I know Logitech makes good peripherals, and this one's really, really good. In fact, brief overview of this, the battery life lasts forever. It's got a USB-C input, which is really nice. It's a backlit keyboard, it feels really nice to type on, and after a few minutes, you get used to how small it is. Okay, so let me go through the main objective review points, and then I can talk about my subjective stance on the whole thing and the use cases that I have for it. Performance has been perfect. Not one time can I recall my iPad slowing down or crashing. Sure, it's not nearly as powerful as the M1 version, but I have yet to find a need for that in my personal workflow. I'm not editing videos on it or anything. From switching back and forth between manufacturer websites and Google Sheets to playing Grand Theft Auto 3D Universe Collection with my PS4 controller, this thing has not skipped a beat, and I've been really impressed with it. iPadOS holds stuff in RAM pretty well, and even with loads of Chrome tabs open, I found the browser usage to be very smooth. Me and my partner use this all the time to look up trails and walks and stuff like that before we go out, and it gets a lot of use. iPadOS was a big change that Apple brought in 2 years ago. It offered better mouse support, far superior file management, and multitasking that actually works a treat. I've personally used it a lot for getting details for reviews and writing reviews in docs. It's not quite as flexible as having something like Windows 10 with window snapping, or even with a standard Apple laptop that doesn't have that built in, but it's as close as I want and gets the job done. And that screen definitely helps with it. It's an 11-inch 1440p equivalent 120Hz IPS display, and it's brilliant. It's the correct aspect ratio, refresh rate and resolution to get lots of work done on the go, and it means that playing games and watching content is super enjoyable as you're not squinting to see anything on the screen. One thing that makes a bigger difference than you might think is the 120Hz refresh rate. I know I always talk about how it doesn't make a difference on a smartphone, but on a bigger screen and more importantly with an Apple Pencil, it makes drawing and writing feel far more natural thanks to the more responsive display. Battery life has also been more than enough for me. If I can get a day's worth of work out of it, then I'm happy. This is usually 50% brightness, spending about 5 to 6 hours in docs and Chrome, and it absolutely delivers that. I also use the iPad Pro to watch YouTube and Netflix, to which it delivers a good 4+ hours of that separately as well. The charging is a bit slow due to the big 7500mAh battery only charging at about 20 watts, but to be honest, I'm either charging this thing overnight or whilst I'm using it, so I'm not too fussed. The cameras might not seem all that important on paper, but the thing is that with so many people using Zoom and Teams for work and school, the cameras are more important than you'd think, mainly the front-facing one, and I must say, the 7-megapixel front-facing camera is pretty good. It's not as good as the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but it's not that bad. Face ID is excellent, although I really wish we had Touch ID as well, like the smaller iPads have Touch ID. That'd be really cool, but yeah, this thing works really well with Face ID. It's a bit annoying having to put my PIN in every now and then, but yeah, works okay. I imagine if I was using this every minute of the day, it would become annoying, but I use this a couple of times a day. The physical build and features of the iPad Pro are great. The bezels are thin, the cameras are good, the speakers are really excellent, and I use them a lot. The USB-C port is great for charging and also allows for dongles and SD card readers. I'm a big fan of this form factor as it's significantly smaller than my 16-inch laptop, but still bigger than my iPhone 12 mini. Now, how do I use it personally? Well, I write pretty much every video on this YouTube channel on the iPad. I have a laptop and I use that for work a lot of the time, but with the iPad you can carry it around with you. It goes in my bag a lot. I'm sat in bed when I'm feeling lazy, when it's cold, when it's like 2 degrees, I'll sit in bed and get cozy and write on it because it's so much smaller and lighter, and actually the battery life I think lends to that as well. My most used apps actually are Google Docs and the browser Chrome, because you can kind of multitask because of the split screen design. You can get more done and it really works in a more efficient way. It made my workflow more efficient than I thought it would. I also started playing more games on my iPad, and chief among those is the GTA 3D universe, so the Liberty City Stories, San Andreas, that generation. And this is probably the best way to play them in my opinion. Like, yes, I've played them on PS2 back in the day, played them on PC, but on this you can carry it around with you, and the connectivity to my PS4 controller was basically instant. I mean, you can look up a guide, maybe I'll leave one in the description, but it's really quick to actually connect a PS4 controller directly over Bluetooth. No dongles, no cables needed, works flawlessly, and actually I didn't have to map any of the buttons either in GTA, it just worked as you'd expect it to, which is great. Also, whilst filming B-roll and playing games, I've been watching a lot of Netflix and YouTube on it too, which is basically what it's designed to do. The speakers are crisp, clear and have good low end, the screen gets really bright and is big enough to enjoy media on, and this keyboard case is, well, it puts it in a good position, put it that way. Oh, and I haven't even talked about the drawing yet. So I'm not an artist, I can't draw or paint or whatever, but I tend to use the Apple Pencil a lot for little diagrams and things where I need to plan stuff out, say a layout when I'm filming, or even like a house in Rust or Minecraft or stuff like that. It's really useful. You just get sort of a square, sort of, you can get it off the internet like a grid, you set it as the background, and I've been using the app Procreate to actually design stuff in there. And I've also been writing lists and all that kind of thing. And the Apple Pencil continues to impress because I can take my A7 III, take the SD card out of it, use the same adapter that I would normally use in my MacBook with my iPad, and then from there I can edit all of the photos that I usually edit in Lightroom on mobile, and most of the functionality, I would say 90% of it, is the same as it is on the laptop and the desktop. So it's pretty feature full, and the pencil just makes sort of making local adjustments a lot easier, because you can sort of draw stuff and you can adapt more easily than say you would with a mouse or with if you have chubby fingers like mine. I have to say that the iPad Pro has taken a lot of the workload off of my laptop and off of my phone, because it's bigger than my phone, so watching content and stuff like that is much nicer, especially reading, but it's also a lot easier to get sort of the more intensive work done because it's a powerful piece of kit. It might not be the M1, but it's still fast enough to do a lot of the stuff I would normally use my laptop for. So writing notes, writing entire scripts, doing my emails, stuff that I would usually get my laptop out for, or I would sit at a desk, I can do on the iPad, and it's not as fiddly as using a really small phone. So do I recommend the iPad Pro in 2022? Well, if you've got that kind of money to spend, then maybe you can get these used for, I believe, around £500 to £600, depending on the condition you get, of course, and you can go higher with the sort of 5G or 4G and the different SKUs. That's a lot of money, and as someone who works in the computer repair industry, laptops are actually probably the better option overall. However, if you have that money to spend, and if you want something that's small and you only do specific things on it, so you're not looking to download lots of local files, you're not looking to have separate applications as opposed to just the mobile apps that you would normally have on your phone, then maybe you should go for the iPad Pro. I mean, that is so much easier of a device compared to a laptop. However, I must say I'm very blessed to be able to have a laptop and an iPad. I think they work very differently, so I wouldn't say that I could replace my laptop with an iPad, because I edit all the videos on the laptop and I would absolutely not do that on the iPad. However, for stuff like basic social media essentially, and text and stuff like that, that's all done on the iPad where I would have done it on the laptop before. So yeah, big recommendation for me. Make sure that you look around for your keyboard cases. Don't buy the Apple one because it costs an absolute fortune. There's just no point. Unless you have loads of money, in which case, why are you looking at this review? Go and buy the brand new iPad with the bigger M1 chip in it, and yeah. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Sorry for this sort of rambly video, guys. I wanted to do a bit of a review on the iPad since I use it so much. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're new around here so don't miss a video like this one. Also check out all the links in the social description, links in the video description with my social medias. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons for being continually supportive. There's a link to my Patreon in the description as well. And with that, I've been Ryan Thomas and I'll catch you later. Peace.